As a colorblind individual, thank you, Nintendo Power, for coloring Mario how I see him. Bright orange. Yes, what I have here is something pretty special. It is the first issue of Nintendo Power. This is one of the pricier issues of the magazine you can get online. You always find a couple of these on eBay, but they'll be around maybe 100 or so bucks. And most of the time, they're not in the greatest condition. I mean, this is a magazine from the 80s, and not only that, it comes with a free poster. I can tell you right now, the poster that was supposed to be included right here, probably not here. It's floating around in the ether somewhere. So it may not have the poster, but the rest of the magazine is pretty intact here. Of course, it has some age to it, but what magazine from the 80s doesn't? And yeah, I just think this is really cool. I've been picking up more Nintendo Powers lately, and they're really cool to pick up, though. I do prefer when they kind of focus more on like news and reviews rather than walkthroughs of games, because these old school Nintendo Powers focus mostly on maps and tips and tricks and all of that. Like I think this is kind of cool to look at from a layout perspective, like the fact that they went above and beyond for all the baseball NES games, but still, in terms of actually giving a damn about the word contents in the magazines, I definitely prefer when Nintendo Power went for more of like your official news source and review source for all things Nintendo later on in its life. But that doesn't make these old school issues not worth a damn. I mean, look at this cover. Yes, this is officially a damn out of 10. Did they just not have enough red clay to get his hat right? Mario is the main thing that just looks out of place here, mainly due to the weird hat color. Also the face, that has something to do with it. Wart looks really good, and the environment looks fine. It's just, I don't get what was going on there. But yes, Mario 2 is the main focus here, and we also have the baseball roundup, over 50 pro tips, and focusing on the Zelda Second Quest, alright? And this was only $3.50. That roughly equates to 7 cents per tip. Oh, we gotta check this out. I've never really thumbed through this one, even though I've owned this first issue for a bit here. We have an advertisement here for the Nintendo Power line, giving you tips from their game counselors. Weirdly enough, I can see a prototype cover of this Nintendo Power magazine here with a 2D drawing of Mario from Mario 2. That's pretty weird. Then we have an introduction basically saying how Nintendo Power is the source for all things. This is kind of fucking lame. We go to the table of contents here. Yeah, so we have a big focus on Mario 2, Zelda Second Quest, baseball, Counselor's Corner, the Howard and Nestor comic, which was kind of a core element of Nintendo Power. Kind of Nintendo Power's mascot was Nestor. Fair amount of stuff here. I mean, there's over 100 pages of junk here. We even have the whole credits here saying how Nintendo Power is published by Nintendo of America. So this was like a fully Nintendo produced operation for the first half of its life. Then later on, Nintendo Power was outsourced to, I believe, Future Publishing, which did a lot of different magazines at the time, which did allow Nintendo Power to be a little less biased. They could actually do reviews of Nintendo games and it not be kind of weird. We start things off with a full-blown Mario 2 guide. Interestingly, I can see the art style here. It is kind of like, I believe the name is Super Mario Kun, which that's a long-running Japanese manga series of the Mario franchise, and I don't know a lot about it, but from what I've perused online about it, seems to kind of adapt all kinds of Mario games into manga stories. Like, it'll take any of the more recent ones and kind of like tell a story about it. I don't know if it's an ongoing story or if it's just kind of like singular one-off things, but Mario Kun has been going on for decades. And I believe there was a costume in Mario Maker on Wii U featuring the Mario Kun design of Mario. It's really cool, and it seems like they actually took the design here, which is pretty neat. Move on to over here, which shows all kinds of just how to play nonsense, more of the same Mario designs. I will say the layout here is fantastic. I mean, this is like some kind of instruction manual hopped up on meth. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I mean, look at this layout. They're even taking some sprites and having them extend out of the circle, which is pretty insane for manipulating 8-bit sprites for magazine images back in the 80s. This actually looks pretty damn good. And we have this, which looks like it looks like they colored it with like Crayola marker. Looks like they were just kind of having fun with things. Like they're using the Mario 2 abilities, like Mario being all around, Toad being fast, Peach being able to float, all of that, and making them play Olympic sports. And then we have just these full-blown maps. Like they stitched together all the game screens to create like these long maps, which definitely would have come in handy back in the day. Nowadays, they're just kind of cool to look at. They don't really serve a huge purpose other than just kind of thumbing through and being like, oh, this looks neat. Here we have Mario with a hammer, which seems to be more Donkey Kong focused, if anything. I don't necessarily remember a hammer in Mario 2. Yeah, I think they made the right call making Mario 2 what it was in the United States. I mean, the Lost Levels is just awful. Mario 2 USA is a genuinely really cool game, and it has its own flair that you just don't see anywhere else. As a sequel to Mario 1, it's definitely weird, but in other ways, it feels like kind of a natural progression from Mario 1. It kind of feels like you take the general idea of Mario and just kind of expand upon it and flip it on its head, while still feeling like Mario. I also just realized, did Nintendo Power color Mario to just have a blue hat? Just to go with the cover? Why is it blue here? I don't understand. And then it seems like they go up to roughly the second world in terms of a walkthrough. But sadly, this is where the poster would have been, which it also turns out, if we look at this page number being 24, and this one being 44, god damn, they ripped out a whole ass novel. Yeah, it seems like the main thing that the last owner specifically ripped out was the Second Quest to Zelda portion, which was definitely where the poster was. And the poster was a map for the Second Quest of Zelda, so I assume the last person that had this just couldn't bear to have 20 pages of this magazine intact. That's unfortunate, but that's kind of what you have to expect from magazines back in the day. It's pretty crazy that the rest of this issue is so well preserved and still looks really good, but then this whole ass chunk is taken out. But we must move on to the baseball section. Yeah, this is just all about baseball games on NES. It's just RBI baseball, MLB, bases loaded, beanball. And would you look at this? The previous owner just didn't want to fucking look at the Ghosts and Goblins box. Counselor's Corners was a bit of like a Q&A, FAQ kind of section. You know, here they're answering questions about a lot of NES games. While I'm playing Ring King, sometimes the letter P appears in the ring. What does it mean? I would have assumed your main question about Ring King is, what the f is this? Of course, with this being the first issue of Nintendo Power, I assume these are kind of just like general questions that Nintendo overheard instead of like having readers write in their questions. So like just the fact that we have this full-blown map of Metroid here is kind of just them going like, hey, listen, like here, just have it. You don't have to ask, we know. Here's the map of Metroid. They even tell us how to do the one-up trick in Mario, which I can never do. I can't do it. I still need to, I need to try. That's on my gaming bucket list to accomplish. It's really hard for me to do the one-up trick. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but what takes precedent is knowing what to do with the Pegasus flute in Rygar. When you reach the top of the highest tower in the Rolsa Valley, you will see Rygar's castle. When you play Pegasus flute, the entrance to the castle will appear. Well, I'll be! Looks like our friend had another problem with something included here. But next up, we have a Howard and Nestor comic. This was kind of a mainstay of Nintendo Power. It'd usually just be a humorous little comic featuring Howard Phillips, which was kind of the face of Nintendo back in the day as a company. And he was kind of the Reggie Fils-Aimé of his time. This first comic is you know, pretty lame. Pretty much just Howard Phillips asking Nestor if he knows what he's doing in Zelda, and Nestor is always like, yeah, I do, and he actually doesn't. And then it's over. But Nestor would move on to play an integral role in Nintendo history, being the star of Nestor's Funky Bowling. Couldn't imagine Nestor's Funky Bowling without him. Here we have classified information. To be honest, a lot of the sections of Nintendo Power from back in the day kind of just feel like they're they're synonyms for each other. Like, it just kind of feels like the same types of info, just kind of regurgitated in slightly different ways. So welcome to Classified Information, the place where programmers and pros reveal top secret program quirks and ultra techniques. Read them, practice them, and astound your friends with your on-screen hocus pocus and cool tricks. So this feels pretty similar to like Counselor's Corner, but just kind of served up a little differently. So instead of being like an FAQ where people are asking for, you know, hey, how do you do certain things? Like, how do you do this one-up trick? Instead, this is kind of coming from the pros themselves. You don't have to ask the question. They're answering it before you ask the question. It's just kind of weird. You know, you'd think that like the Mario one-up trick would work perfectly here, but they put it where like the FAQ is. So yeah, that's what I mean by like a lot of these sections just kind of feel like the same types of things. But as we can see, they obviously had some pretty integral info for the last person to go to the grave with it. Next person you see, check their pockets for this Mike Tyson's Punch-Out section. I'm missing it. Move on to a whole section about Double Dragon. Again, look at this. This is insane. Just this gorgeous layout. You don't see stuff like this anymore. It's amazing to see this, especially with like the official game art being displayed in this way, and also seeing their old school method of getting screenshots of the games. It's obvious they kind of just pointed a camera at the screen and like just hope for the best. Yeah, we have a full-blown walkthrough of Double Dragon here. And then we have Gauntlet, which again, look at this art, my lord. Bunch of maps here, and then we move on to Contra. Like, man, they just hit every note imaginable for NES game walkthroughs here. Full-blown map here, screenshots. The screenshots came out pretty damn good for obviously being just pictures off the screen. Then we have this spread about NES game shows, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. This is a little less about being a guide, and it feels a little more like an advertisement. They kind of give you the option of like, oh man, look at all these questions, and then they have the answers down here. But we can see it says now playing, so this is kind of just talking about games that are currently out, that are brand new. Video shorts. What the hell is this? The now playing section of Nintendo Power features every single new release video game now available or coming by the next issue for your NES. You've been reading our in-depth reviews of Double Dragon, Contra, Gauntlet, Wheel of Fortune, and Jeopardy. These aren't reviews, those were advertisements or walkthroughs. Now you can look forward to more great games in the video shorts section of the magazine. Here you can take a peek at the long list of titles chosen for challenge, fun, and excitement by our Nintendo Power magazine editor. These games are the hottest out there. City Connection? So I guess what we were just seeing here, you know, this is the now playing section. Contra's new, Gauntlet's new, and they get these full-blown spreads, while these are more so you get just kind of some basic little paragraphs about the games. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see some of the most iconic games from this era. You got Metal Gear, Bionic Commando, kind of being advertised as brand new IPs. It's pretty interesting to see. Rambo. Next up, we got Pack Watch. So this is a little more interesting to me. A look into the future of NES game packs. So these are games that aren't out yet. So we have Indiana Jones, Chesterfield, Terra Cresta. We have Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. The latest word on Zelda 2 is that it will definitely be available in stores by October. Zelda is waiting for you to awaken her from the sleeping spell that has been cast upon her. Hang on, Zelda, it won't be long now. Your nightmare will soon be over. Link. Good yearbook quote there. Now we have Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2, Blaster Master. Unfortunate that most of these don't have screenshots, but still kind of cool to see how this was before Zelda 2 was officially released, you know? Now we have a players contest. I don't, well, they ripped out something here. Oh, that must have been a different poster. The grand prize is any 10 games of your choice. 2 copies of soccer, 1 of 10 Mario 2 game packs, 1 of 50 Nintendo Power jerseys. I'd rather have the jersey. Here we have the NES Journal. Wire into the NES pipeline on what's happening around the world. Definitely way cooler here. Dragon Quest 3. The RPG released in February is the talk of Japan today. So they were talking about Dragon Quest on the Famicom in Japan. Now, I'm not sure if Dragon Warrior had released by this point. So Dragon Warrior was the North American title for Dragon Quest back in the day. But it's interesting how they are referring to it as Dragon Quest here. And they're also talking about the third one overall. We have advertisements for books like the official Nintendo's player guide, Zelda Tips and Tactics. Konami awards Top Gun title. 4 finalists launched their mighty F-14 fighters to battle for the coveted Top Gun. There was a Top Gun NES tournament? They won $5,000 for that? I just pissed my pants. Can you give me $1,000? Here we have just a full-on section for movies. Now you'd expect this to be like video game movies. Nah, this is just... It's just movies. Vibes, Pee-wee's Big Top, 8 Men Out. I don't know. To be fair, I had Nickelodeon magazine back in the day, and that magazine was about 60% Nickelodeon and 40% other things kids would be interested in at the time. Like, they talk about things like movies or even TV shows that aren't on Nickelodeon. Just all kinds of random junk, and this is very similar. It's just Nintendo fan Kirk Cameron, star of TV's popular Growing Pains. Yeah, that's how you get this in here. They have the inside scoop. Candace Cameron, who plays DJ on Full House, has beaten Mario, but not Zelda. And Kirk Cameron, well, he's just playing golf and pinball. And to think he saved Christmas. Here we have Mailbox, which is players writing into Nintendo. They really had to stretch what warranted a question being answered in a magazine. My friend has recently bought your basics set. In doing so, he acquired the player's guide. If it is possible, may I request one? And their answer is just, you can buy one. You can buy it. Wayne Wallison, you've been outed. NES Achievers is like a high score catalog, where you can submit your high score of certain NES games and then get published here. Who the hell was going for the high score in Mega Man? That was the only Mega Man game with points. It was pointless. At least showed that some people were still taking advantage of the point system in a lot of games. It was kind of a holdover from the arcade era. But Video Spotlight, the spotlight's on you. These players wrote in to tell us about their video prowess. We think you'll agree they all qualify as power players. What a fucking dork. This always kind of confused me, so this was kind of like sales charts, I guess, in terms of like what's the most popular games. But they don't use like actual sales data, or maybe I don't. What does 214 points mean? So like, what is this? Is this like what players like the most? It says players picks. Like, so does this mean like how much the players like the game? So like Punch-Out's #1, but then this is like what Nintendo likes the most, and then is this what the salespeople like the most? RC Pro-Am? And then we have a preview for the next issue. Simon's Quest, Bayou, Billy, and Bionic Commando, and a letter from Howard Phillips. Dear player, we hope you enjoyed reading the first issue of Nintendo Power as much as we enjoyed making it. We spent many hours doing research, playing games, in order to bring you the most complete reviews, the best tricks, and the raddest reading ever. Nintendo Power will come out every other month, and we want to provide you the very best in video journalism. We've discontinued the Fun Club News so that we can devote all our energy into making Nintendo Power the best magazine you could ever subscribe to. P.S. I'm working real hard on Zelda 2. Look for it, it's going to be great. Howard, what were you doing with Zelda 2? It was being made in Japan, what were you doing? We have one final little advertisement to subscribe to Nintendo Power. And then one more advertisement on the back. Oh man, Nintendo Entertainment System. I just bought this magazine because I love blue hats. I've never heard of it. Well, that was the first ever issue of Nintendo Power, or about like 80-70% of it with you know, the little pages that our previous friend decided to rip out. I think we got the gist though, and this is honestly really cool to go through. All Nintendo Power issues are. I just do prefer kind of the second generation of Nintendo Power that's a little more I don't know, interesting to look back at nowadays. I love looking back at like the conversation at the time. I don't really care as much about the walkthrough stuff these days outside of just the pretty pictures. I like seeing what people were saying about whatever was happening in gaming at that time. I think that's really damn cool. So I definitely prefer kind of like mid to late 90s Nintendo power compared to late 80s, early 90s. But that shouldn't take away from how cool and monumental this magazine was, and just like kind of pushing gaming as like a fandom to keep up with. You know, Nintendo Power was one of the pioneers in game journalism, and that's really cool. Doesn't excuse the blue hat, but whatever. So, thank you, Nintendo Power, and f*** you, previous owner.